Is this the dagger?
Illegal substitution, too many men on the field, Saskatchewan.
Gizmo has a block and the sideline. He has not stepped out. He may go all the way. He needs one block and he'll do it easily.
Promised Mess I wouldn't do this.
McDavid stops up. What a move. Shoots. Scores!
Hey, it's The Outsiders, podcast number 47. Bryn Griffiths along with Robin Brownlee. How you doing, Robin? Everything okay?
Everything's absolutely perfect, pal. Ready to go.
Looking forward to this one today because we're going to be chatting with a former Edmonton Oiler. You know what? I can't even say that because he's still an Edmonton Oiler in so many ways. Not a former Edmonton Oiler, but Kevin Lowe joins us on The Outsiders today. Lots of stuff to talk about. And I guess the big thing is he's been inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. He's an inductee. The actual formal part of the induction process hasn't happened yet because of COVID, but I'm kind of curious to know how he's been able to hang in there. His announcement was, 16 months ago, I think it was, and yet here we are. But there's that. He's always been heavily involved with Hockey Canada, and now he's been selected to be a member of the Order of Hockey Canada, so congratulations on that. And a 6-time Stanley Cup champion. And he's done pretty much every job with the Edmonton Oilers, that's for sure. So I'm looking forward to chatting with Kevin today.
Well, if you talk about the face of the Oilers, a lot of people look at the big names. It starts with 99, but 1979, drafted by the Oilers, scores the first goal. We're going on, not unbroken, but 40-plus years with this organization in one form or another. With that break in New York, Kevin has done everything. He's played the game, he's coached the game, he's managed the game, and he's had to sit through some difficult years when he couldn't do anything on the ice to impact the outcome. You and I both know how competitive Kevin is, and we got to ask him about that. When you get to 40 years, you're a face of a franchise when it comes to that kind of thing.
You said he scored the first goal in NHL history, right? Not Oilers history?
Yeah, NHL history.
Yes, and the only reason I bring that up is because I remember going out to, it might have been Lloydminster or Fort Mac, and we were flown out there by Cal Nichols on his private plane. Cal was the pilot. Had a chance to sit up front with him on that trip. But we had the best discussion coming back, and Patrick LaForge was there, Alan Watt, a bunch of other people. And I'm one of these guys that grew up in Edmonton. So for me, I watched the Edmonton Oilers as the Alberta Oilers in the first year back in the old Edmonton Gardens. And so I always kind of took offense a little bit to those who suggested that the Edmonton Oilers really never started until 1979. And I used to go, 1972. We would have that debate frequently in the office. And, one of the things, Al Hamilton was instrumental in the franchise in its World Hockey Association days as a leader. And his is the only banner up in the building that he is not a Hockey Hall of Fame member, but he meant so much to the team at the time. But I remember having that discussion on the plane trip coming back over a couple cocktails. And I will always defend the World Hockey Association boys as much as I do the NHL guys. So it's been an organization that's been around for a very long time. Hey, before we get into the Kevin Lowe stuff, Tiger Woods became a big story last week with that car accident. When did you kind of tune in to everything that had happened in Los Angeles? Did you just kind of stumble upon it? Or for me, I was just doing some work and all of a sudden got a bulletin coming across Twitter, turned it on, and it was nonstop TV coverage on CNN and CTV and CBC and all the major news stories and news channels. I'm glad that it turned out the way it did. It's going to be tough for him to battle back, but it could have been so much worse, that accident.
Yeah. You know what? The first I heard of it, Bryn, is you mentioned it to me, and I can't remember whether it was in a text or a a phone call we're having, but you said, did you see that Tiger stuff? And at that point I hadn't. Once I found out about it, I probably watched everything I could see for the first half day that it was that it was on. Yeah, that's a tough one. I'm not a doctor. I just play one on TV, as they say.
Yeah.
But that's going to be a tough one. I think, as life sometimes deals cards that we're not ready for, I would be absolutely stunned. I hope I'm wrong. If we ever see him play competitive golf again, most important thing, obviously, is that he recovers and that his quality of life is still there. And it sounds like hopefully it will be. He'll certainly have the best of everything to get back up and back to normal again. But yeah, that's a shocker. I mean, that's the greatest player and one of the most recognized sports personalities of many generations involved in a really serious wreck. And it had my eyeballs on it for half the day after you mentioned it to me.
I almost feel it was a little irrelevant to be worried about what's this going to do for his career. I was more worried about him surviving and also being able to be with his family more than anything. Whether or not he doesn't owe the game anything anymore. No. As a fan, you'd hate to see it taken away. But you know what? That day's going to come anyway. So I just hope that he's able to get his life together. He's going to be able to walk normally again. And he's going to be able to watch his kid golf. There's a lot of other positives for Tiger. I whether or not he ever comes back competitively, I really don't care. I just want to see him come back. That's pretty much it for me.
Yeah, agreed. And I don't know who sent it out the day of the accident, and it's right along the lines of what you're saying, Bryn. It showed some pictures of him golfing with his son. If he can do that, that's probably all the golf he needs from now on, because that's something you don't forget about that. And moments like this make you realize that important things can come and go like that. So whatever's next for Tiger, you hope that it's health and family first, and anything else is gravy.
I think it was Rory McIlroy that was one of the guys who said, look, we got to put this into perspective. And that's what it is. And but it's hard for fans to say they don't want, it's hard for fans. They want to see more of them. They can't see enough of them. So it's, I get that. Hey, I'm also wearing red today because today is March the 1st. I have a heritage that's Welsh. And I know St. Patrick's Day is the more popular one, but today is not St. Patrick's Day, but St. David's Day today. So to all of my Welsh buddies out there, I want to say, hey, listen, this is our special day. We start drinking 17 days before the Irish do. So that's pretty much it. Okay, look, we're going extra long with Kevin today, so let's get right to it. Before we do, though, we have to remind you, and we happily do so, that The Outsiders is brought to you by the Macintosh Group at RE/MAX River City. The team over at the Macintosh Group, super excited about this new promotion they've got going right now for sellers. I love this, what they're doing. Obviously, like everybody else, they provide professional photography, the 360-degree tours. They also show the video and the floor plans of all of their listings. But now they've added something called Coming Soon. So what they're doing is they're giving you a bit of a heads up on property that is going to go on the market ahead of time. So that way you get a chance, it's about 7 to 10 days ahead, and it gives you an opportunity to see whether or not you really kind of are interested in that place. So what ends up happening is that when it does go on the market, you can get a hold of them right away. I love that, don't you? I think it's fantastic.
A little sneak peek, as it were. Absolutely. Great idea.
Yeah. So, and what it's also doing, they're finding, is it's resulting in more showings in less time. And also they're finding their sale prices are higher because they're getting competitive offers in. And the market is not as soft as you think here. But if you'd like more information, get a hold of Brent or any of his team members at the Macintosh Group and tell them that you heard from the Outsiders. I keep blowing that one every time because, well, we are Brent's insiders. Anyway, just get a hold of the Macintosh Group at 780-464-0075 or online at macintoshgroup.ca. Okay, you ready to go?
Ready to go.
Take a deep breath. Coming up next, Kevin Lowe. almost feel like we're a little late on this because he was selected to join the honored members at the Hockey Hall of Fame 16 months ago, but because of the way COVID's gone, that's been delayed. But you know what? Doesn't really matter. It's going to happen. And then just last week, he was awarded another big honor, the Order of Hockey Canada. So it only seemed appropriate now was the time to make the call and track down Kevin Lowe, Edmonton Oiler great, and he joins us on The Outsiders today. Kev, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Brent. Thanks. Good to be on with you guys.
Well, let's briefly touch on the Hockey Hall of Fame first. Has this 16 months been driving you crazy? Because I know you're a man of action, but I guess you're just kind of rolling with the punches with this COVID thing, right?
Yeah, it's thinking of it from the humorous side, I guess, or the practical side. I'm in. Whether
Yes.
they have the official presentation or not. It's not like they can yank it back. So and they're hopeful this November. Hearing from Lanny McDonald and the Hall of Fame crew there that it'll go on as planned. It'll be the class of 2020 will go in this November, assuming things are back to normal. And the more recent news that we got was that they decided to forego the 2021 class so that our class of 2020 would be the only ones going in this year. So which was kind of nice. It's such a special time, and to try to stack up two classes together, it's not a big venue in Toronto for people to attend to the public event. As it stands, it's always tough ticket. Anyhow, with just one class, so two classes were crazy. So what it does is it gives us more time to sort of be the class. We're the class for 2020 and 2021, and someone flipped me a picture the other day of the Hall of Fame in Toronto, the building downtown Toronto, and they have on the windows they have the 2020 pictures of the 2020 class. So that person was saying, "Wow, it was so cool to see your picture," and then 6 months later, it was like, "Can't believe that picture's still up. How long are we going to have to look at it?"
Yeah.
So
Kevin, 16 months can't seem too long because you waited 20 years for this to happen. Talking about that, the one thing that strikes me, and there was a debate for a long time, should Kevin be in, should he not be in, how you measure great hockey players. We know about the 6 cups. Everybody knows about all that. The one thing that strikes me is how many people, former teammates, went to bat for you that said, we think Kevin Lowe belongs in the Hockey Hall of Fame. At the end of the day, you're in. But what did that mean to you to have so many people step up and speak on your behalf?
Well, it meant so much, Robin. And that's really, at the end of the day, the most pleasure I get in it, I suppose. I was shown the sort of the package that they send to the hall and the letters that were submitted. And when you read that, it's really touching. And, I've said this quite often since the day I got the call from Lanny McDonald, is that, to me, the Hockey Hall of Fame was always for, the likes of Gretzky and Howe and Messier and Beliveau and Bobby Orr. I mean, the greats of the games. And I guess in support of my case, I never sat around. You said, well, you waited 20 years. I really wasn't waiting. I would only hear from people, oh, the Hall of Fame votes come and your name's on there. And I'd say, oh, is that right? And I never really envisioned myself being there. So it was never a big letdown if I wasn't called. I was happy with my career, happy with my accomplishments. And of course, but when the time did come, I was a little bit shocked. But, having said all that, the Hall does have players that, many of them didn't have near the accomplishments that I had. let's forget the statistical part. But at the end of the day, the game of hockey, I believe the way we see it, is about the Stanley Cup. It's not about scoring a bunch of points. It's not about, of course, you need all those things, but the end goal, you hear everyone say it. You hear Connor McDavid, you heard Wayne Gretzky, with it, I'm MVP, top scorer, but they want to win a Stanley Cup. And, I don't want to say I cornered that market, but I was fortunate to have all those. So, again, as I say, I was never disappointed, and quite frankly, thought it would never happen. And, in my mind, maybe rightfully so. But when the call did come, it was a thrill.
6 cups, am I correct? If I'm not mistaken, it's 6 cups.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about this yesterday. There's got to be a crazy, wild difference from Cup 1 to Cup 6. And, you won in 2 locations, Edmonton and New York. But when you look back at those 6 cups, I know that the first one's special. I know the last one, you wonder, is this the last one? Because it's so hard to win. And then you have the 1991, where that was the first one without Wayne. And I know, having traveled with you guys, that was special because you had something to prove to the hockey world that it could be done without Wayne. So totally different. But is the number one still the number one?
It has been, yes. I'd say it probably has been. And yeah, you're right. It probably always will be. But the way you described 5 and 6, they're pretty darn special too. And, one is the one where you remember, you'll always remember the actually sitting on the bench. So when Dave Lumley scored the open net goal to put us up 5-2 with, less than a minute left, it wasn't until that very moment that I actually realized I'm going to be touching the Stanley Cup and within minutes, we've actually won the Stanley Cup. It's official. And we'll forever remember that moment. But the run in 90 and, validating Mark's place, in the historical significance of the Oilers was a big thing. And then even one step further, validating, Mark's place in pro sports ever, to do what he did in New York was and we were such great friends, and to have other friends, best friends like Craig McTavish there and Glenn Anderson and Jeff Bukaboom, and then the wacky Essa Tikkanen, Adam Graves, of course. That was pretty special.
Kevin, when you're on the job, from my end of things, you got a job to do, but I don't think I ever told you this. The first time I missed all those, the first 4 parades, the teams that blew other teams away, Gretzky and the high-powered Oilers. I got here in December of '89, and I covered the end of the season and the '90 Stanley Cup. And I remember walking into that room the first time, and whether Gretzky was there or not, it was like, this is effing awesome. This is the Edmonton Oilers. And you look around, there's still Mark Messier, and there's Craig McTavish, and there's Kevin Lowe, and so many of the players that you watch on TV from afar, and then you get into covering that team. And this was the one that was the most unlikely. And it wasn't a matter of, it wasn't about swagger in 1990, was it? This was a different Oiler team, and you had to navigate your way through to that Stanley Cup.
Yeah, and it probably was the most fun, Robin. That group of young guys that we had, we had a blast. And winning the Cup, in Boston, and then, coming home. So we had more time to sort of really just be together and enjoy. But, we stumbled through the first series, if you remember, and Billy Ranford all of a sudden became Billy Ranford MVP. And, there was some doubts, I would imagine, because we lost the year before. We remember we had the LA Kings down 3-1, and then we lost in 7. crushing. But I really feel that losing that way and losing to Wayne and seeing Wayne dance around in Game 7 when he beat us, and it wasn't in a mocking jest, it was just in a happiness perspective, I think it really cemented our resolve for the following year not to let an opportunity slide by. And here we were, in the spring of 90, presented with another opportunity. Just getting to the playoffs is difficult, as we know. But when you still have, as you say, Messier and Curry, still in their prime, and Anderson, and then you throw in all the other guys, those young guys that came in, we could smell it. After we got through that first series, we could smell it, and we navigated our way through.
Far be it from a Smythe division standpoint to watch Winnipeg or Calgary scare the living shit out of you guys in the first round to push you to the great limits. That series against the Jets was an amazing one. And the other thing, too, that I noticed all the way through that run, it always seemed like it was somebody a little different in each series because Mess at the Chicago Stadium was on fire. You had the kid line and the LA sweep. And then when you got to the Boston Garden for the final, that's where you saw Andy pick it up. And Craig Simpson with some big goals, and Billy Ranford. It always seems like if you're going to win a cup in every series, somebody else has got to kind of pick it up a little bit. And it was that was a fun run.
Yeah, it was. And you mentioned some very important names. Craig Simpson, one of them. I mean, he had really become a leader on that team and scored he was a perfect complement to Messier and Anderson, if you could think of a perfect line mate. I mean, he had exceptional hockey sense and great hands, great shot, and great willingness to score goals. So I think the Oilers could use a guy like that right now, in front of the net, banging away at some goals. That'd be one piece, I guess, that I could see would really benefit today's hockey team. But it was the whole thing again too. Not to touch too much on Wayne, but there was no we did it without Wayne. But probably subliminally there was a fair amount of that in us, especially for the older guys.
Yeah,
and that's those kinds of emotional things can be great motivators.
Kevin, going to that last cup, what's that lyric, Sinatra? If I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. Different uniform, but you're in the media center of if not the universe, at least North America in New York, and you've got some familiar faces with you from the glory days in Edmonton. Winning that last one without knowing at the time it was the last one. Talk a little bit about that, because 5 here, but that last one there, that had to be special as well.
For a number of reasons. One, it sort of brought us, there's been a number of players that have won 5, but 6 or more is kind of, obviously the next threshold, and it's a big one. It really eliminates a lot of players that have just only won 5. Funny that you talk about that. But when you talk about New York, Robin, it was massive. I mean, the New York Knicks and Houston Rockets went to Game 7 that year as well for Madison Square Garden Sports, which owned the Rangers and the Knicks. I mean, the city was completely on fire. Springtime in New York is, it's a fantastic place. The weather's great. But that's where from my perspective anyways, the story kind of ends. I have no stories of, incredible parties, New York parties and stuff, because quite honestly, I was 35 at the time, and I think back and chuckle. We had 2 7-game series, back-to-back semifinals and finals. At 35 in the NHL, you're starting to be a little long in the tooth, and I was banged up, so we won that night. Of course, we went out and celebrated. The next night or the next morning, Mess phone, and with the address of where the party's going to be and all these things that are going on. I said, Mess, I just don't have the energy. I'm going to have to take a pass pass on today, and I'll catch up with you guys tomorrow. And so, sure enough, the next day comes, and Mark phones again, and so this is the agenda for today. We're going here, 2:00, and there at 4:00, and giving me a whole shopping list of parties and events, and the same answer. I just don't have the energy, and I ended up doing that for about 5 days in a row. So I missed out on a lot of the celebrations, but at the end of the day, just hoisting the cup and having some champagne in the dressing room is really what you really look for.
Hey, this order of Hockey Canada, I know how much Hockey Canada means to you. We can go right back to those Salt Lake City Olympics and how special that was. But when you think of your time with the gang at Hockey Canada, where does your mind immediately go on that one?
Well, Salt Lake City for sure.
Yeah.
Britt, that was, the backstory to that is a couple things. One being, in 2000, Wayne phoned me up, and you'd think, we probably talked often. At that stage in our life, we hadn't talked very often because we were both had families at that point. He was living, I guess, in Los Angeles or whatever. So we probably hadn't talked for a year or longer. And so when I got a call, it was just nice to hear from him. But even more pleasing than that was the fact that he asked me. He told me that he was going to be the top guy for Hockey Canada to select the team. He had been asked by Bob Nicholson, and that I was his first call to assist him in it. And so I'll forever remember that, just because of the context of our relationship. And, you kind of, I don't need to tell you guys, when you as you get older, if you're not in the same lane, if you're not living in the same city, not in the same lane, you tend to have a call once in the, blue moon type of thing. So, and then fast forward to the actual games, and then, you get the whole backstory. Canada hadn't won a gold medal in 50 years in hockey at the Olympics. It's like, wow. And then, of course, what happened in 98 and not medaling at all. So there was, and then we get to the first game of the tournament, and we get smoked by the Swedes. And I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't sign up for this. But then everything else that happened after that. And then to fast forward to, 1 minute left in the game, we're up 5-2 on the Americans. All the Canadians that are in the building are singing "Oh Canada." Never seen that before. And, so that was, that's certainly the pivotal moment in my days with Hockey Canada.
I got to ask you to spill the beans on this a little bit. Wayne's defense of the team at that one press conference, you guys must have talked about that before he did it, or was that just classic Wayne reading the situation, taking a little bit of a slats page and trying to take the focus off of the team? Was that a spur of the moment thing, or did he say to you, Kev, I got to do this or I got to do that?
Well, for sure it was building up. And I just said this the other day. I think he just flat out snapped. He had enough. I don't think he was planning on that, but I think it was just the emotion of everything. But also knowing Wayne, I mean, a lot like Slats, always thinking of the bigger picture and, maybe deflecting some of the attention off the question. I don't know about all that, but for sure we used to meet for coffee or breakfast every morning at a Denny's in Salt Lake City. And Walter would be there, and Steve Tambolini and Charlie Henry, Wayne's old family friend and hockey man, and whoever else was kind of around. And BlackBerry had just come out, and I had one of the first BlackBerries. They were still like the pagers, they were where the headlines came across, and you could scroll, you could hit on it, and open up the stories. And we're getting all with the little wheel. And so I was able to get all the stories from Canada. So I would sit there having coffee, and I'd go, well, so-and-so saying this and so-and-so saying that. And I could just see Wayne getting redder and redder, and I could just spitting mad at those turncoats, those BASPARDS, and so he really, and of course there was other stuff on that, and it comes with the territory, but it just shows you how passionate he was as a hockey person.
How could you guys possibly have breakfast at a place like Denny's and not be recognized? Is that possible?
It's unbelievable. We rarely did. He maybe once in a while, but it was interesting how we'd slide in there and nobody even knew who was, that Wayne Gretzky was actually at Denny's. Well, Wayne and Walter.
Talk about a group. 4 Olympic Games in the management of Team Canada. A lot of hockey knowledge around. You spent almost as much time now because you moved away from hockey ops, but in hockey ops as a GM, as a decision maker, as you did playing. I tell you what, it is 2 careers. You haven't dabbled in management and coaching. You've done it now for as long as you played.
Yeah, I guess that's true. And I certainly feel it every day when I wake up. Really, again, as I said earlier, really fortunate. I always hoped that I would have a career in hockey afterwards. You guys probably heard me say, I thought, well, if it didn't work on the hockey side, that I, would maybe be on the media side. I used to say that as a towards the end of my playing career, and then lo and behold, Glenn had organized for me to come back to Edmonton and play another year with the opportunity to be assistant coach, and then evolved into head coach, and then into general manager, and then into president, and then into vice chair was my last title. I was running out of titles. But it's the later stages obviously has been a credit due to, I guess, my commitment to the game, and I guess people still valued my opinion when I had it to offer, and I work hard at the promotion of the game. I try to be an ambassador of the game. I'm going into the Order of Hockey in Canada with a lot of great names, including some former teammates and friends, and Wayne, of course, and Mark Messier and Ryan Smith, Captain Canada, but also maybe even more importantly for me, my childhood idol, and John Beliveau. And, Beliveau was the barometer for me in terms of, try to perform, well on the ice, but also the stuff off the ice. So, I want to say it comes naturally, but a lot of times it's not, when you're in the public eye all the time, it's not the easiest thing, but at the end of the day, my position with the Oilers is to serve as an ambassador and, to try to be as a good representative of what the game should be.
I want to go back to what, at least as an outsider, I consider your wheelhouse, and that is your passion for the game. As a player, your brother, Kenny, talked about, we know what you played through. The pain threshold of a cadaver is one of those sayings, just take me up, put me out. So many times over the years, and sometimes I was on the wrong end of that passion over something I'd said or written. But I remember in '98, July 30th, even when it had been laid out that you'd come back, you'd be an assistant coach. But I remember you and Karen walking in the room, and I thought the over-under on Kevin breaking down is about 5 seconds. And sure enough, you hit the under easily. And that stuck with me, Kevin. You'd accomplished so much as a player. You had a future at least sort of mapped out. Yet the emotion grabbed you in the moment. You've been like that in many circumstances. Where does that come from with you?
I guess it's... thanks for bringing it up, Robin. I'm going to get emotional again. But, I could say a bunch of things. I remember that well. So with my family, I mean, if I could show you a picture, I have a picture that I cherish, and it's me when I'm about 2 years old, and it's a team photo of I think they were peewees or bantams, peewees probably, and in the photo is 7 of my cousins, and my dad is the coach, and my uncle, who's my godfather, was the assistant coach, and I'm sitting, at the on the ice with the trophies and the sticks, and it's there. I mean, hockey was like a religion in our family. I'm the third youngest of my generation, of which there's 36. And so lots of hockey going on. I grew up in that environment, and but it was never forced on me. I just loved to do it. It really became natural. Now you asked about the passion, and I find this comical to this day. So I'm not in the hockey decision making. I haven't been for quite some time relative to the Oilers. But when the Oilers play poorly, or guys are making mistakes, I'm watching the game and feeling the exact same way as I did as when I was a general manager and I was a guy in a chair in charge. Like it's strange that so I'm thinking back in those days, I wasn't feeling that way because I was a guy responsible. I was just feeling that way because I want the team to win. That's all. Like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if I'm watching a game now and they're playing poorly, I'll first of all turn the sound down because I don't want to hear, and I'll force myself to watch to see if I can pull out a nugget of enjoyment out of it. But thank goodness I've been able to watch all the games this year.
Hey, I got to bring this one up because my better half brought it up, and that is, how did Kevin and Karen meet? Because part of your success is you move forward, and you've got a great family, and they've all done exceptionally well as they spread out. But Karen, it seemed to me, was such a perfect match for you and didn't really stop you from being you. And I think that's a credit to her as much as it is to you. But do you remember the first time you guys ever met?
Oh yeah. No, the story is, it's an interesting one. So we met at a fundraiser that Wayne Gretzky had in Brantford. I believe at the time was a CNIB, I think was the benefactor to it, but it was, we were playing, for a number of years, Wayne had an event in Brantford, Wayne Gretzky and Friends, they called it. And it was tennis, and then it became softball, I guess. I think the year I met Karen was softball. Karen's agent at the time was Mike Barnett, who was Wayne Gretzky's longtime agent and good friend. And so Karen was also attending this celebrity event. And the way the story goes, it's a little bit long, but I think you'll appreciate kind of the punchlines. Is I was with Mark and I were visiting Wayne at his place in California. Wayne and Janet headed to Brantford some days before to prepare for the tournament, and Mark and I were scheduled to follow to Brantford for the event. Things happened, and Mark wasn't able to attend. So we left. The last time he saw me, I was very much single, and so he left and happened to travel to the Far East. And 1989, no internet, no nothing to stay connected. And within 3 weeks' time, I had met Karen and asked her to marry me. So when Mark returned home to Edmonton 3 weeks later, he phoned my house, and a good friend of mine, who both of you know, Sandy Nesbitt, was my roommate at the time. And Sandy answered the phone, and Mark was looking for me, and Sandy said, "Mark, oh my goodness, we missed you. We had an engagement party for Kevin." And Mark went, yeah, funny. I said, "Where's Kevin?" And said, "No, Mark, seriously, Kevin got engaged." And Mark was like, "Oh yeah, that's funny. Yeah, that's a good story." Second time, then as Sandy tells the story, Sandy said, "No, Mark, seriously." And Mark actually got mad at Sandy, and Sandy, like, cut the bullshit. Where's Kevin? Anyhow, fast forward to it all happened very quickly. We don't, we hesitate to even tell our kids that story these days because it's, you want to have a little longer before you get engaged, but it's worked out. We're 30 plus years married and have 4 children together. And it certainly was the right decision for me. I suspect, or I hope that she feels the same way, but it worked out.
It certainly. Hey, what is the? Tell me something, Kevin, if you can. When it's only 3 weeks, how do you know that soon? I remember telling a good friend of mine within a couple months of meeting my wife, but it was like a couple months, I'm going to marry that girl. It was before I'd asked, before I'd done anything. But 3 weeks, man, that's like a thunderbolt out of the blue, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we. It's tough to explain without getting into the psychology of it all. But I'm a little bit older than Karen. She comes from a great family, and she retired from skiing really young. She was only 23 years old. That was 2 years post her Olympic medals and 1 year post a world championship silver medal. But she, growing up in a great family, she had been traveling in Europe since she was, I think, 14 years old or something. So, and she had success. And I think, the motherly instinct, she wanted to get married and have kids. And in those days, I imagine maybe it's a little easier now to be a skier and do that. I'm not even sure, but that was a big part of her life. So of course kids came very quickly, and we've had such a great time. And now we have our first grandchild. Our son Keegan and his wife Bree provided that. And I see, just last night we were FaceTiming them. They're down in California, and man, I just can't believe how much she loves to see that baby. And I mean, as I do, but I mean, for women and females, I guess that motherly instinct is just over the top. So I guess that's probably what drove her, is that, she wanted a family.
Hey, we're going to be all over the place down the stretch here. I'm wearing red. Watch Tiger's story develop last week, and then watch what the PGA guys did, where they were wearing red yesterday on television. But I still remember a story, and I was working at the Oilers at the time, and you had gone and met Wayne and Mac T for a round of golf. And when you came back, you were excited about this round of golf, and you didn't initially tell everybody why. And then eventually you did, because there's no way you could keep a secret about golfing with Tiger Woods and Wayne Gretzky. Do you remember that round very much?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I sure do. Wayne, Mac T and I happened to be in Vegas, and Wayne caught up with us and said, hey, you guys up to playing a round of golf? Tiger's down here. He had just come back from one of his first injuries, and was about ready to go play in a tournament, I think in Germany or something. And, of course, I mean, I'm not the greatest golfer in the world, so I'm like, oh man, how do I pass up on the opportunity of playing golf with Tiger Woods? But so we agreed to go. It was brutally cold that day in Vegas. We had to go buy extra clothes and stuff because we only had our shorts and whatever. So that was kind of, I'll always remember that. But I'll always remember being on the first tee box and my knees just knocking, like, okay, just if I can hit one good shot all day, let it be right now, and otherwise I don't really care. And so it was a par 4, 479, but it was an elevated tee box, so it wasn't as long as 479 sounds. And so Wayne hits first, or no, I think Tiger. We gave Tiger the honors. He hit first, and then Wayne went second. And I kind of looked at Mac T. You go. So Mac T, and everybody hit it well. So then it was me, And so I get up there and I've got a hockey player swing or not a very nice looking swing, I guess. But I hit it right on the screws. I hit it as well as I could, right down the middle, took the perfect line, and I saw it bounce, and I had lost where Tiger's ball was. So par 4, 479, and my ball was sitting at the 150-yard marker. I could see it, So and remember, it was an elevated tee box, so I didn't hit it that. You know what I mean? And a lot of help from the elevation. So I get in the cart, and Mac T goes, "How'd it go?" I get, "Oh man, I hit it good. I hit it on the screws." And he goes, "Oh, well, that's good." He goes, and I go, "I think I outdrove Tiger." And he goes, "Oh, bullshit." I go, No, Mac, look. And we're driving down the hill, and he could see my ball at the 150-yard marker. And he goes, "Is that your ball?" I go, "Yeah, that's my ball. I outdrove Tiger." And so we get down to the flats, and then the undulation of the fairway. Then all of a sudden we get close to my ball. Then we could see Tiger's ball at the 100-yard marker. So we couldn't see it from the tee box, But so he loves to tell that story. How I thought I outdrove Tiger.
Tiger though was interested in the Stanley Cup stories, though, right? Because when you're with three other guys that have won, a guy competitive and as sports friendly as he is, must have been as fun for him as it was for you guys. Yeah,
and that's a good point, Brendan. We had lunch after and sat, at a little table in the Spike Bar, and it was amazing. I mean, I was just dying to ask him questions, but of course, Wayne was, I don't want to say monopolizing the conversation, but we were talking hockey, and he was just happy to eat and listen, and you could see he was, lapping it all in. That's in some respects, my wife Karen's the same way. When you don't play in a team sport, that whole camaraderie and connection is they don't ever experience that, right? It's he was. Yeah, I mean, it's just fortunate I still have the picture sitting in my office, and I got him to sign a couple Titleist number 4 golf balls. I have his name on it and Wayne's name on it, so those are a couple special mementos.
I tell you what, if that's not the definition of living right, I don't know what is. You go out to the golf course, you tee it up with for my money, the greatest player of all time, with arguably, my generation remembers Jack Nicklaus, but the greatest golfer, at least of our lifetimes. That looks pretty good on the mantle when the grandkids come over, doesn't it?
Yeah. And by the way, I was even with them after 2 holes. We parred 1 and bogeyed 2, but then it was all over.
Hey, the other guy I want to talk to is another champion, and that's Joey Moss, who we've lost here inside this past year. And everybody's got a way of how they want to honor him. And to me, I'm going to state what I think. I'd love to see the community arena renamed after him, and I'd like to have a statue of him outside, opposite of the Wayne statue on the other side of the building. That, to me, would be a wonderful honor. But I just don't know really what is appropriate or what is correct, because Joe meant so much to all of us, whether you're a member of the team, member of the organization, or a member of the media. We all dealt with Joey every day and loved it.
Yeah, no, agreed, Bryn. It's amazing the outpouring that I was fortunate to sit in some of the meetings and discussing plans relative to Joe. And, the piece that Sportsnet put together was incredible. There's been lots of dialogue. I mean, and lots of plans in place. The challenge has been the pandemic, and we certainly, when the time comes, when whatever is unveiled, you want to have the fans and people to be able to be involved. So that's certainly coming down the road. Pat Garland, who you guys know well, Pat's that's under his domain, and he's done a great job embracing and bringing in everybody for consultation. sat in a bunch of conference calls with former captains and players and members of the Moss family. So, I guess without blowing the lid off of what's going to happen down the road, there's going to be some good things, including and Jeff Lang and the players are really adamant about peace in some type in the dressing room, which is so fitting. So look forward to that. Sad to see him go. I really I was there from the beginning and the end with Joe. I mean, like you guys know, he was just part of the fixture, right? Part of the fixture. When you walked in the dressing room, you expected to see him. And but I was again fortunate to be with Wayne when he first met. When he was dating Vicky, and I went over to the Moss's house over in the South Side, for Thanksgiving meal, and seeing Joe in that environment with his many siblings and his mom, I believe his aunt at the time. They were just such a loving family. So you could see why Joe prospered and excelled so much in his life, because he had such great family background. And great, obviously the Oilers were part of that family too.
Now, you're probably not going to want to let us know what's in the plans for Joey, but being me, I'll ask. But that aside, down the road, Kevin, again, your arm's length from the hockey ops thing, fans here have, it's remarkable to me, have the greatest player in the game today, again, in Connor McDavid. They have Leon Draisaitl, and a team around them, and an improving team around them. Can you sit back detached from it, or does it pull you back in when you sit and you watch this young group of players play the game?
No, it pulls you back for sure. That's what I was, I guess, touching on when I'd say I'd get frustrated when they didn't play well, because you want to. I mean, that's what the goal is. It always is to try to get to the upper echelon and win the cup. So you can start to see signs. You can see. For me, was fortunate to see it at the highest level. So I can tell you when it's there. I can tell you the signs when it's getting there. The little things, the little sacrifices. I hear it whenever I have a conversation with Mark Messier, who, by the way, is still watching, and to listen to him comment. I mean, his comments aren't peripheral and, well, they need a puck moving defenseman or they need better goaltending. It's in other much more important things in his mind, which I agree. It's in body language. It's in how players stick up for one another. Those are the elements. When they start tracking, that's when you see a team getting to another level. So it's not an easy thing to win a Stanley Cup. There's lots of stuff to be done, but I agree, Robin. They've got some nice pieces now, and particularly the two you mentioned. Love to see Darnell's evolution as well, and it's at the end of the day, when you have those two leads like we had in Mark and Wayne, and if they have the equal amount of passion to want to win a cup, but then it's also got to be supported by a good complement of players that have the equal amount of passion to want to win a cup. Then it all comes together.
Your involvement in the community is legendary here, and if somebody isn't aware of it, then they haven't been paying attention. You got involved with the Christmas Bureau. I think that was the first charity you got involved with. But that was something that really was that was a Slats thing where you wanted to get players involved outside of the hockey game. Do you see players now doing that same thing, or as much?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Obviously the organization encourages it, but we've got some great guys that are involved in a lot of stuff, and I don't know if the game's a little more transient. I mean, it was a little bit different. We made our homes here. and now players, the season ends and they end up leaving. It's not, just they have that option. It's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
So it was a little easier for us to become more a part of the community, but we never hesitate. The organization never hesitates to try to remind players of that stuff. But right from the top, Connor and Leon, have been very active and generous with donating money to various organizations. Nuge has dug in and really made Edmonton a home. But then, we've had a young team for a lot of years, so it takes years and years to sort of get there. But we try to. At the end of the day, our goal, the foundation's goal, is to try to link, every player with some organization, and up to them, whatever they feel. Some of them have a passion for dogs, so the SPCA and things like that. But it really, for me, besides you hope that the good that it provides, I really always felt and still feel it's a nice break from the game. It's nice to get out in the community and connect with people that aren't necessarily part of the game, and we have a naturally giving city, as you guys well know. I mean, it's amazing when you look at our 50-50, but anything that goes on, the support, the people that step up and donate money and support for organizations it's not equaled anywhere, I believe, in the country.
It's funny you'd mentioned that, Kevin. That 50-50 draw a couple weeks ago that benefited the mustard seed. I had, for 2.5 years, I did some media relations work with them and had a lot of fun working with the alumni for Hockey Helps the Homeless. And
sure.
A lot of nonprofits like the Mustard Seed and a lot of other businesses have been hit so hard by this pandemic. And that money is going to make an absolute world of difference. I mean, a real boots on the ground world of difference to the people they serve. It's absolutely remarkable. And I'm not asking you to toot your own horn here, but the Edmonton Oilers Community Foundation is a real driver in this community, isn't it?
It sure is, and has been since about, I think 2002 was the first year it began. We've had a lot of wonderful board members. Again, another way to connect to the city. We've had, so many leaders in the city as part of the board right now. Natalie Minkler has been our executive director. Both of you guys know well, and Natalie's been there for a number of years and does such an amazing job. But yes, the Edmonton Oilers Community Foundation gives a lot back. But it's really thanks to the Oilers and their fans. I mean, the 50-50 money directly comes from Oiler fans.
Yeah,
and we're fortunate to have that dynamic. But back to the mustard seed gift. Yes, I mean, that'd be kind of a number that I'm not even sure they would get in a couple years' time, let alone in one foul swoop. And the 50-50s you speak about, I mean, we used to get excited when we first started breaking 100,000 as the overall take, and 50 to the winner, 50 to the charity. But we'll be north of 45 million into the community, and if we're not already there, kind of missing time. But you talked about mustard seed, and just a little more about the foundation. The strategic plan developed by the board not that long ago really has a big emphasis on now supporting hockey as much as we can. Hockey is for everyone. Hockey is for the less fortunate. Hockey is inclusive, or should be inclusive, but also the social need within the city. You talked about Mustard Seed and Boyle Street, and because we make our home in downtown Edmonton, Rogers Place is there. We certainly want to continue helping as many organizations as we have in the past, but we really want to have a strong focus on on the downtown core. And of course, Mustard Seed is a big part of that.
It's funny you should say that too. And this says so much about hockey guys and hockey organizations. When we had the bubble here this past summer, the guys from Las Vegas had noticed, on the other side of the building that people were in need, and we're sending pizzas over there to everybody. And it was such a special story. Or the Ovi story, walking from, I think, the Westin or the Hotel Mac and running into a guy who definitely needed a coat and dragged him into the Sport Check that was in the downtown location and bought him a coat. And that story didn't get out until almost he'd left town. But that just says so much about the hockey community. I love those stories.
Yeah, those were fantastic. You touched on it, Robin, with the pandemic. Much more need, and there's going to continue to be. We continue to thank our fans and the supporters at 50/50 because they can rest assured that the money's going. It's going to be placed in a great spot and be well appreciated, and we're thankful of it, and we'll continue to try to get creative and try to beat the last big target. I'm not sure how many more north of 2 million we're going to have, but hopefully we will, because there'll be a lot of benefit from it.
One last one for me, Kevin. You are, without even any reasonable doubt, the most competitive person that I've ever met. I've seen it many times over the years, and that's a good thing. It has manifested itself in different ways, let's just say that. But now as you and Bryn and I, for that matter, slide into our 60s and we're older and more mature, where do you get your competitive fix from now? What does it for you these days?
Yeah, good question. I'm not sure. I am involved in some business outside of the game, so some land development, and that can be competitive, trying to convince approving bodies and things like that. It's you win, or I don't want to say you win or they win, but that's sort of away from the Oilers. I mean, still just watching the Oilers, as I mentioned earlier, I get my adrenaline fix. If they lose, I'm upset. Not necessarily at them. I'm just upset the way I always was. But at 62, I can't have my heart challenged too much. So I can't be being too competitive, some card games with Karen and the kids, and I don't have to win, but I need my fair share of winning, and that keeps me sane.
Two quick last ones for me. One, do you and Burke still talk?
We do, yeah, and it took some time, and I'm not sure if you heard that side story. It's kind of an interesting one, and he talks about it in his book, where we were never the best of friends, but we were both managers. We enjoyed talking to one another. I had gone fishing with him, but I can't say. I mean, sometimes you have a loose description of what a friend is. So I consider you guys friends. I mean, we won't spend a lot of time together. So we were sort of in that vein. And then when the thing went down with the offer sheet and all that, and it blew up. One thing I remember is Dean Lombardi, after about 2 or 3 months of all this, talking to Dean. Dean was in LA at the time as GM, and somehow Burke's name came up, and he said, "Hey, that thing with you and Burke, that wasn't for real, right? That was just Burke doing a PR stunt." I said, "No, Dean, that it's pretty much real." And so that was kind of a funny thing, but on the more serious side. So again, we wouldn't see each other that often. Maybe at the Hall of Fame awards, you'd see someone in passing, and we'd make sure we didn't talk to one another. And then when Burke's son passed away, sadly, the actual night of that happening, I got a call from Steve Tambellini, who, was quite close with Burke. And he said, we talked about it a bit. And then he said that he said, Burke wants to talk to you. He needs to talk to you. I'm thinking to myself, well, we haven't talked forever. It's kind of strange that he'd want to talk to me after his son had passed. So sure enough, he phoned me the next morning, and the reason for the call, and explained it quickly, was that his son who had passed away. He and Brian had a conversation. I think Brian alluded to his son saying, Dad, these spats you have, things going on, like the one with Kevin Lowe, that's ridiculous. You got to show him, whatever he said to him, more maturity, or that. And I'm sure Brian's reaction was, well, that's your point of view, not mine. But after his son passed, he said, I'm doing this in honor of my son, who, I want to open up the lines of communication or whatever. So ever since that day, we've, I guess, been called, we're friends again.
Excellent. And before we go, I'm a member of the Cure Cancer Foundation. And one of the events that I've been involved in over the last little while, obviously I've been touched by cancer, but I also want to make sure that nobody else has to go through what I've been going through. And one of the events we do is called Toast of the Town. And we did a great night for Barry Stafford and had a lot of fun. I don't like to call it a roast. It is a toast, because we do have some fun. Some stories do come up. We were going to do one with you last year, but of course, with the way COVID went last August, we couldn't do it. We're hoping to get it underway again this coming August. But I do want to encourage everybody that if we and when we get back to normal, and we are shooting for August, that if anybody gets an opportunity to buy tickets to come to your event as we toast and roast you, that they do so. That's going to be a fun night, and we'll have a lot more stories coming up that night too.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, Brendan. Hopefully, as you say, we can, as things improve on the pandemic side, I'm hoping by August that we'll be able to have it. I think the crew there, Barry and company, are very hopeful. It's a good event, and for the best, for a fantastic cause. So the goal is to raise a bunch of money for the Cure Cancer Foundation, who you're well aware of, and of course I am. So yeah, I encourage everyone to come. It'll be a fun night. I'm sure there'll be stories. Well, I know there'll be stories told that have never been told publicly before. So come and join us.
Hey, one of the stories that came up, though, at Barry Stafford's one, I got to find out and make sure this one is true. And I can't remember who told the story. It was an executive with a rather sizable company about you and Barry Stafford with laces. You know what I'm talking about? Can you break that story down to kind of send us off here? What happened there? Barry loves to make sure that his budget is met.
Yeah. Barry's passionate. Speaking about competitive and passion, Robin. Now and again, I remember signing a picture for Barry that he had in his training room, and it was a picture of, you've maybe seen of Mark and Wayne and I hoisting the cup. And what I said on it was, something to the effect that, not that never before has, trainers been more impactful on championships. And I really believe that. I mean, it's the whole plethora, the whole shopping list of things that need to go well to win, especially multiple championships. And a guy like Barry, grew up, played hockey at U of A under Claire Drake. I mean, what better experience can anybody have? But a hockey player that eventually turned into a trainer. He was so passionate, as he'll admit, not good enough to make it to the next level. But here's a guy who's ultra compassionate or passionate, but also knows the game, knows what guys are going through, and then, of course, gets his marching orders from Glenn Sather, who, was obviously a stickler about the little things, and particularly keeping your eye on the budget. So, we had strong rules. I mean, imagine this, it's the National Hockey League. We were only allowed to have 3 sticks at a time. We had our game stick and like 2 game sticks, and then we could add another practice stick in there in the event that 2 game sticks broke during the game. Of course, you could always fill up that quota so you could continue to have 3, but it's the National Hockey League. I used to walk in dressing rooms and I'd see, guys would have 30 sticks taped up. But anyhow, we had our marching orders, and relative to the laces, so I got to a point where, and it must have been, it's more of a what do you call it? What do you call it?
Like a superstition?
Superstition.
Okay.
More of a superstition. I obviously took out a pair of new laces one game and tied them up, and my skates felt great. And if your skates feel great, you feel good on the ice. And if you feel good on the ice, chances are you're going to have a good game. And the next game had the same laces in, but it didn't go quite so well. So the following game, I said, I'm going to put a new pair of laces in. And of course, had a good game. So, and it was a kind of a feel thing. So, like, literally, I'd take a brand new pair of laces, which would be shocking to Barry, and use them one game, and then take a new pair for the next game. So what Barry would do is I'd be tying up my laces and take the old ones, which were really 1 game old, and throw them in the garbage. And so Barry would go and not make a big fuss about it, but he would walk around the room, look in the garbage, grab the laces, bring them back into the training room, roll them up, put them back in the little package, and put them back in for players. And it took us a while to figure out that we thought he was just, whatever, he was giving them away to Goodwill or whatever he was doing with them. We didn't know what he was doing, but he was actually putting them back in. So to make a long story short, and we all knew what was going on. We could see it. This would be at game time, right? This would be just before we're literally going out on the ice for warm up. The dressing room's quiet. So I took the lace and baited them, and I threw it in the garbage, but I hung it over the side so you wouldn't miss it. And then at the bottom of the lace that was in the garbage, the part that was in the garbage, I tied a note to it saying, "Ah, caught you, you cheap bastard." So when he pulled the lace out of the garbage, everybody saw it and had a quick laugh. His face turned red, and that's the lace story.
That's beauty.
Hey, thanks for your time today. You've given us way too much, but this is long overdue. And congratulations on all the honors that are coming your way. There's a jersey raising coming at some point as well. And very proud of you. Proud to call you a friend. We've known each other way back since the 80s when I was doing that rock and roll thing. And you guys always treated me with kindness, and I appreciate that. And thanks for coming on. I know Robin feels the exact same way. So thanks, Kev.
Well, yeah, Bren, same thing for me, Kevin. Different role, never with the team, but certainly spent a lot of time around it. Missed the first few cups, but was around for one. And that 2006 run was, talk about unexpected and a lot of fun. And you were a manager then. Time flies, and sometimes I'm reminded that you got to enjoy the journey along the way because it goes pretty quick. And here we are today. You're finally going into the hall. You've got the Hockey Order of Canada coming up. Congratulations on both those things, Kevin. I haven't had the opportunity to say that to you, so I want to say it here and now.
I appreciate that, Robin. Bryn, the feeling is mutual. It's I do consider you guys friends, and I've always, with the media in the city, although at times you have your moments, but I've always looked at it as just people doing their jobs, we go back a long way. But the nice thing I've always felt about Edmonton is that, everybody that's in around the game, I mean, we become friends and again, can put any of the differences aside, that you respect them for what they're doing. So, and time does fly, no question. But hey, we're still here, guys, and hopefully we got a little more runway. And yeah, I'd love to come on the show again sometime. Hopefully to talk about other good things for the Oilers organization.
Thanks, Kev. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Wow, that's our longest interview ever, but I thought it was good to, I felt like we were venting on a few subjects today, Robin.
You know what? It's been a while since I had the time to sit down and talk with Kevin, and we always, in the past, firmly had our GM and reporters hats on. It was nice to just chat, and Kevin talked a lot about the things that people want to know, and things that have happened during his time as an Oiler, as a player, as a coach, as a manager, what he's doing now. That time with him zipped by real quick.
I wasn't going to ask him about the Burke thing, but I never really heard how that had resolved, or even if it had resolved, and so I thought I'd better ask anyway. And the more I thought about it, I started thinking back a little bit on the fact that stuff like that is...
It's the same old story. Boy finds girl, boy loses girl, girl finds boy. Boy forgets girl, boy remembers girl. And girl dies in a tragic blimp accident over the Orange Bowl on New Year's Day.
What the hell is that?
Oh, you missed the punchline! Oh, never mind. That's from one of the Naked Gun movies or whatever. Frank Drebin is one of my heroes. Okay, so anyway, that was a blast today, and like I said, I just I can't thank Kevin enough for giving us well over an hour of his time. And we had some technical difficulties at the beginning, so we had him almost for an hour and a half today, but he was great. It was we were just able to shoot the shit, and that's pretty much the way it worked out. Oh, by the way, we have another rejected sponsor. Do you want to hear the rejected sponsor since we're on a roll here? I don't. You tell me whether or not you think this one's going to qualify. Hang on, here we go.
Budweiser presents Real American Heroes.
Real American heroes.
Today we salute you, Mr. Losing Locker Room Reporter.
Mr. Losing Locker Room Reporter.
Wherever a semi-naked man is crying like a schoolgirl because he lost a ball game, you are there.
So sad, too bad now.
Why did they lose? Because some millionaire dropped the ball. A millionaire who needs a mic stuck in his face on national television.
Oh, no.
Go ahead. Wear your cashmere blazer to work. No one's going to pour champagne on it where you're going.
They're just losers.
So this Bud's for you, oh bringer of bad news. You're not a big loser. You just interview them.
Don't want to talk about
Not sure that one's going to fit. That one's going to work.
I don't know.
Well, we'll see.
That would be solid sponsorship right there.
Well, it's not quite the Macintosh Group at Remax River City, but it might be a close second. Hey, listen, there's a couple of little housekeeping things we have to do. If you'd like to drop us an email, please do. The email address is theoutsiders@shaw.ca. Theoutsiders@shaw.ca. You can check us out on Twitter. The handle's real simple, @Outsiders2020. And also make sure you tell your friends to subscribe to our RSS feed on any of your favorite ear candy sites like Apple, Google, Spotify, Pocket Casts, etc., etc. And that way you get the new and the hot one when it comes off the press every Monday. So it's pretty fantastic. Anyway, your support greatly appreciated. Your financial support is also very important to us. And we'd be thrilled to talk about potential advertising other than the one that we're not so sure about. And we'll have bigger and better things coming up next week. Thanks, Robin. Talk to you later, okay?
Excellent, pal. Talk to you later on.
All right.
Hi, guys. the castle.